එදිනෙදා ඔබේ මුළු සිරුරටම රැකවරණයක්. සුදේශී කොඹ සබන්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50 අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, signed and sealed. US federal government puts president's US citizenship issue to rest once and for all. Loud and clear. IMF says Sri Lanka's request for emergency funding received and under assessment for disbursement.
I can confirm we have received a request from the Sri Lankan government for emergency financial support.
Hope prevails. Sri Lanka reports 2 new cases and 8 more recoveries as the countdown to lockdown lifting looms. Hidden in plain sight, STF raids extremist training site in Kathankudi used by Zahran Hashim to recruit Islamic women to his cause. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Friday the 8th of May 2020.
69 SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම 100 ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanayaka. Let's start with your local stories. Now, the dual citizenship issue of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa that became a point of contention in the lead up to the presidential election was finally put to bed today with the publishing of a US federal government list of persons who have chosen to expatriate, which included his name. This issue even went to court last year in a bid to block his presidential run, but was dismissed by court without taking it up for consideration in October.
The subject of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's US citizenship became a hotly contested topic in the run-up to the presidential election last year. However, the issue was finally put to rest today following the president's name appearing in the quarterly publication of the United States Federal Register of Individuals who have chosen to expatriate. The US Embassy in Sri Lanka, speaking on the matter, had previously stated that renunciation of US citizenship by an individual might take several months to be published in the Federal Register. Accordingly, this latest publication proves that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is no longer a citizen of the United States and does not hold dual citizenship. Opposition figures constantly claimed his ineligibility to run for office based on the citizenship issue. These allegations intensified following the president's official announcement of his candidacy on the 11th of August 2019. However, earlier on in the year, the president had informed the United States Embassy in Colombo of his intention to give up his US citizenship. During that period, several figures representing civil society organizations, namely Gamini Viyangoda and Professor Chandragupta Tenuvara, filed petitions before the Court of Appeal challenging his candidacy. The petition was called up in the presence of Appeals Court President Justice Yasantha Kodagada and Justice Arjuna Obesekara. However, in October of last year, the two-member bench of the Court of Appeal unanimously decided to dismiss the petitions filed without taking it up for consideration. Petitioner's attorney-at-law Suren Fernando's submission before the court alleged that the certificate of dual citizenship issued to Rajapaksa was informal and illegal, as only the subject minister was vested with the powers to grant dual citizenship to any individual. President's counsel Ramesh De Silva, appearing on behalf of the defendant, made submissions and stated that according to the Citizenship Act, the power to grant dual citizenship to any individual is vested with the subject minister. However, due to the fact that the cabinet of ministers had not been appointed as of November 21, 2005, the powers of the subject minister pertaining to the Citizenship Act are also vested with the president in such instances. He reiterated that only the subject minister is vested with the powers to grant dual citizenship to any individual. However, in this case, it had been issued by the then president. Following these arguments, the court decided to dismiss the petition without taking it up for consideration.
Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the United States National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, meanwhile, have engaged in a conversation on Wednesday. Now, the US National Security Council said in a tweet that they have reaffirmed the long history of the US-Sri Lanka friendship and cooperation. President Gotabaya and the National Security Advisor have also discussed the COVID-19 response efforts of the two countries. The NSC said that O'Brien has conveyed President Donald Trump's offer to provide required ventilators to Sri Lanka. It added that the strong bilateral relationship between the US and Sri Lanka is an important part of a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
නිෂ්පාදිත දිනය කවදත් අලුත් වටවල තේ අරගන්න.
වටවල තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තේ එක.
Now moving on with other stories, the International Monetary Fund says that it has received a request from Sri Lanka for emergency funding under its rapid credit facility and is in discussion with the government to replace its current extended fund facility with this new fund rolled out in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. IMF Director of Communications also revealed that over 100 countries have sought assistance from the fund, of which disbursements totaling $18 billion has been provided for 50 countries so far.
The International Monetary Fund held a virtual media briefing yesterday where IMF Communications Director Jerry Rice answered questions from media personnel tuned in from around the world, focusing primarily on the fund's rapid credit facility rolled out in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to a question on Sri Lanka's request for financial support and the type of engagement planned with Sri Lanka, Rice stated that the IMF has officially received the request and will be assessing all relevant factors in relation to it.
I can confirm we have received a request from the Sri Lankan government for emergency financial support under the Rapid Financing Instrument. We will be working in close coordination with the government to assess all relevant factors related to that request. And I can also say that the Sri Lankan authorities have also expressed interest in a range of options for future engagement with the fund. And in this context, again, we're discussing the authorities' intention to replace the extended fund facility arrangement that they had with the Rapid Financing Instrument. So I think that responds to the questions raised on Sri Lanka.
Meanwhile, Rice revealed that with over 100 countries having forwarded requests for assistance so far, the fund has doubled its emergency facilities to meet up to $100 billion in demand without the need for fully fledged programs without the usual conditionality. A total of $18 billion has been approved for 50 countries so far since the beginning of April.
Over 100 countries at this point have requested or expressed interest in assistance from the IMF. To meet this demand, we have doubled access to our emergency facilities, the Rapid Credit Facility, the Rapid Financing Instrument, which will enable us to meet up to $100 billion in anticipated demand, $100 billion in expected demand. And importantly, these facilities allow the fund to provide emergency assistance without the need to have a full-fledged program, so they do not entail the usual IMF conditionality. As of yesterday, the IMF's executive board had approved financing under these emergency facilities at a record speed for about 50 countries. In fact, for 50 countries, totaling about $18 billion at this point. So since roughly the beginning of April until May the 6th, yesterday, we have approved financing for 50 countries under these emergency facilities.
Now, Sri Lanka's active coronavirus cases stand at 575 as of this afternoon, with just a single new case being reported today. Amongst this number are 393 naval personnel, with all cases resulting from the Suduella quarantine operation undertaken by the Navy. It just goes to show the reach and rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus if adequate precautions are not followed when dealing with tackling with the suspected cases. Now, since the 22nd of April, in addition to the almost 400 naval personnel, only 90 civilians have been detected, which also include family members and close associates exposed to the patients.
The clearest example of a virulent COVID-19 virus lies in the aftermath of the Sri Lankan Navy's Suduella operations. Since the first COVID-19 infected Navy sailor was detected on the 22nd of April, to date, a total of 393 naval personnel have tested positive for the virus, following the operations that were carried out in the community of Suduella in Jayala to quarantine residents exposed to just a single patient. So far, this remains the largest number of infected from a single source reported so far, and remains a large percentage out of the total of 516 patients reported across the country since that date. The 516 total also includes family members and close associates of the naval personnel. Meanwhile, 2 naval personnel were discharged from hospital, bringing total navy recoveries to 16. In contrast, patients detected at quarantine centres and during field tests throughout the country in the past 16 days remains at 90. Yesterday, 27 patients were detected, out of which 25 were confirmed to be active naval personnel. The infant child of one of the sailors and a Sri Lankan migrant worker repatriated from Dubai yesterday make up the other 2 patients. The migrant worker, however, returned home aboard a special charter flight that flew back with 197 Sri Lankans in total who were directed to quarantine centres on arrival. This patient was admitted to the Negombo General Hospital after displaying a fever during mandatory temperature tests. A subsequent PCR test confirmed his infection, after which the patient, a resident of Piliandala, was transferred to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases.
PCR පරීක්ෂණයෙන් මේ තහවුරු වුණත් PCR පරීක්ෂණයෙන් මගහැරෙන්නට පුළුවන් ඒ අවස්ථාව අනුව ඔහු පසු කරන අවස්ථාව අනුව ඒ නිසා ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම නිරෝධායනට ලක් කිරීම තමයි අනිවාර්ය සාධකය වන්නේ.
Meanwhile, PCR tests continue to be carried out in densely populated areas in Colombo. Tests were conducted on randomly selected subjects in several communities in the area of Maradana.
මරදාන ප්‍රදේශයේ අහඹුන් නියදියන් 80ක් විතර තෝරාගෙන PCR පරීක්ෂණ කිරීමටයි අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
ප්‍රජාව අතර මේ පැතිරී ඇති බවක් අපිට දැනගන්න ලැබුණේ නැහැ. නමුත් අපි අවදානම සැලකිල්ලටගෙන තවත් සමාජගත වෙලා තියෙනවාද කියන සැකය මත මොකද අපි මීටරයක දුර තියාගන්න එහෙම කිව්වට කොළඹ නගර සීමාවේ ඒ වගේ හැසිරෙන්න බැරි ස්ථාන ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. මොකද ඒ ස්ථානවල තියෙන ඉඩ ප්‍රමාණ අනුව ඒ අයට ඒ උපදෙස් පිළිපැදීමේ අපහසුතාවය අපිට පේනවා ප්‍රායෝගික. ඒ නිසා අපි අවදානම් කණ්ඩායම් වලින් පවුලකින් එක්කෙනෙක් වගේ අහඹු ලෙස තෝරගෙන ඒ අය අතර රෝගය පැතිරී ඇද්දයි බැලීම සඳහා තමයි මේ පරීක්ෂා අද දින සිදු කරන්නේ.
Similar random testing was carried out in the area of Medusenpura in Dematogada. However, none of the PCR tests and blood tests came back positive.
ඊයේ දිනේ PCR පරීක්ෂණ 1553ක් කරනු ලැබුවා. මේ 1553න් 400ක් පමණ ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ කරනු ලැබූ පරීක්ෂණ. ඒ වගේම 300කට අධික සංඛ්‍යාවක් නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානවල කරනු ලැබූ පරීක්ෂණ. අනිකුත් පරීක්ෂණ නාවික හමුදාව ආශ්‍රිතවත්, ඒ වගේම කොළඹ මහනගර සභාවෙත්, ඒ වගේම දිවයිනේ විවිධ ප්‍රදේශවලත් සිදු කරලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, 20 Sudubala residents quarantined at the Navy's Olubil Centre and a further 98 residents of Grand Pass, Gunasingapura and Nagalagam Street completed their quarantine and returned home today. 7 individuals among this group found to be addicted to narcotics were subsequently transported to a drug rehabilitation centre in Nitambua operated by the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board.
මෙහිදී සමස්තයක් ලෙස පුද්ගලයන් 118 දෙනෙකු අද දිනේදී ඔවුන්ගේ නිරෝධායන කාලය අවසන් කරලා නිවස් බලා පිටත් වුණා. ඒ වගේම තමයි අද දින නිරෝධායන කාලය අවසන් කළ අධික ලෙස මන්ත්‍රාලයට ඇබ්බැහි වූ පුද්ගලයන් 7 දෙනෙකු අන්තරායකාර ඖෂධ පාලක ජාතික මණ්ඩලය යටතේ පවත්වාගෙන යනු ලබන පුනරුත්ථාපන මධ්‍යස්ථානයක් වෙත යොමු කිරීමටද කටයුතු කළ තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's case numbers rose to 824 today after 1 more case was reported. In addition, the country's recoveries continue to rise as 8 more patients were discharged and returned home. This brings the recovery total to 240, as a further 575 patients remain under treatment.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay tuned.
කොරෝනා වෛරසයේ පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, with the curfew put in place over the island as a measure to prevent the spread of COVID-19, the government initiated various relief programs in order to relieve the people of the strain and the burden brought on by the lockdown. However, as officials take on the task of delivering these services, some pockets of people have missed out on the benefits. However, authorities continue to take measures to resolve these issues and provide relief measures to the people, with the government having more in the pipelines.
The Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board has announced that all farmers and fisheries pensioners will receive the Rs 5,000 allowance given to low-income earning families for the month of May. A sum of 831 million rupees has been allocated for this task. 162,000 farmers and 4,907 fishermen who qualify for the pension will receive the benefit. Chairman of the Agriculture and Agrarian Insurance Board, Premachandra Ayappa, said that they will be able to collect the benefit on May 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th at their designated post offices. The board also announced that in the event of an emergency, where if a curfew is placed in a certain area, the pensioners will be able to use their passbook as a curfew pass to go out and collect the benefit. Meanwhile, officials today took measures to distribute the 5,000 rupee allowance to persons within the Grama Niladhari Division 672 in Kesalwatta of Panadura who had filed appeals over not receiving the allowance. However, since not all who filed appeals were granted the allowance today, those who missed out on the benefit demonstrated against the authorities. The police had to intervene to control the crowd since they did not observe social distancing. Meanwhile, a new nursing hostel was declared open today at the National Institute of Infectious Diseases in Angoda with the participation of the Minister of Health and Indigenous Medical Services, Pavitra Waniarachi. The Civil Engineering Division of the Sri Lanka Air Force contributed labour for the construction of the 16-room hostel housing 32 nurses. The building was constructed with a 15 million rupee contribution from the Royal College Old Boys Union East Coast Foundation in the US with the intervention of Chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, former Army Commander General Daya Ratnayaka.
මෙම වසංගත තත්වයේදී ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවෙන්ම ලැබූ දායකත්වය මෙතෙකයි කියන්න බෑ. රත්තරන් වටිනවා.
අපි ඊටාම සන්තෝෂයි රටක් හැටියට අපි අද ඉන්න ස්ථානය මේ ප්‍රධාන ගරුත්වය සිදුවෙන්න ඕනේ අපේ රටේ අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාට. එතුමා මේ ප්‍රශ්නය මේ කලාපේ කවුරක්වත් දකින්නට කලින් චීනයේ මේක ඇති වෙනකොටම දැකලා මේ තත්ත්වය ඇති කරා.
මට මතකයි අපේ අධ්‍යක්ෂකතුමා කිව්වා දැන් මාස එකමාරකට විතර ඉස්සෙල්ලා එතුමා සුපර් මාකට් එකට ගිහිල්ලා අර සල්ලි ගෙවන කවුන්ටර් එකේ ඉන්නකොට එතුමාට එකපාරටම කැස්සක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා කවුන්ටරේ බිල ගෙවනකොට. මුළු කවුන්ටරේට ඔක්කොම දුවලා IDH එකේ ඩිරෙක්ටර්ට කැස්ස. එතකොට අපේ නර්සස්ලට අපේ ડોක්ටර්ස්ලට ඒ විඳින්න වෙච්ච මානසික පීඩන දරුවෝ එළියේ තියලා මේක තමයි unsung heroes ලගේ කතාව.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation has come forward to provide disinfectant liquid, face masks and hand sanitizers for public disinfection before public services begin on the 11th of May. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Litro Gas Company delivered the items to the divisional secretariats and also officially handed over the items to the respective departments.
Now, an operational guideline introducing the procedure to be adopted by barbershops and salons that are serving customers during the outbreak of COVID-19 has been issued. Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinger states that this guideline is an addendum to the main guideline titled Interim Operational Guidelines on Preparedness and Response for COVID-19 Outbreak for Work Settings, which was published on the 27th of April by the Ministry of Health.
The purpose of the new guideline is to facilitate limited activities of a salon or barber shops, considering its service as a public need during the coronavirus outbreak. Accordingly, cutting, trimming, dyeing of hair, manicures and pedicures, and waxing of arms and legs will be the only services that salons and barbershops are allowed to render. Since the physical distance between the barber or the dresser cannot be maintained in this work setting, the Health Ministry has introduced special measures to be adopted. Dr. Jasinger says that any owner or a manager who intends to reopen their salon should make a request to the Medical Officer of Health in the respective area. The application can also be downloaded from the official website of the Health Ministry, www.health.gov.lk. He added that no salon or barbershop will be allowed to resume functions without a valid written certificate issued by the MOH.
Following the revelations of suspects arrested in connection with Easter Sunday attacks by the Criminal Investigation Department, CID officers and Special Task Force personnel searched a hotel in Palamune in Kalmune that was confirmed to have been used by Easter attack mastermind Zahran Hashim to recruit Islamic women to his extremist cause.
According to the Criminal Investigation Department, following the recording of statements from suspects arrested over the past few weeks in connection with Easter Sunday attacks, a number of extremist training sites have been identified. Accordingly, the latest site to be identified is a hotel in Palamune in Kathankudi that was searched by the Police Special Task Force. Our correspondent confirmed that investigations have revealed that the location had been used by Easter attack ringleader Zahran Hashim and others targeting the radicalization of Muslim women. Reports have confirmed that Zahran Hashim had personally conducted sermons at the location. The Special Task Force carried out a comprehensive search of the premises using metal detectors to search for underground weapons caches after weapons were found at previous training sites in Trincomalee and Puttalam. The owner of the hotel, meanwhile, was subjected to questioning by officers of the Criminal Investigation Department to ascertain any further information.
Now, Sri Lanka's national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines is set to launch cargo services to a host of destinations. The initiative is planned for launch on the 18th of May. Now, Chairman of Sri Lankan, Ashok Patrige, said that there is no doubt that every single export industry will benefit from the initiative at a time when most other airlines are keeping their fleets grounded and global trade by air is under a lockdown situation. Sri Lankan Airlines says that it will commence 27 dedicated cargo flights per week out of Colombo that will connect Sri Lanka with major cities in Europe, the Middle East, the Indian subcontinent and the Far East. Destinations include London and Frankfurt in Europe, the Chinese cities of Beijing, Shanghai and Guangzhou, Melbourne in Australia, Singapore and Tokyo in the Far East, Doha and Dubai in the Middle East, the Maldivian capital Male in South Asia, the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka and several cities in India. The carrier says that these dedicated cargo flights will be a vital link for local exporters to take their produce to new and existing international markets and will also enable the importation of much-needed raw materials required for the production of export goods. It added that the airline's existing fleet of Airbus A320 and A330 aircraft will be utilized for these flights and that the carrier has enhanced the cargo carrying capacity of the aircraft beyond the usual capacity of the cargo holds. Meanwhile, Emirates Sky Cargo has also announced the commencement of scheduled cargo flights from Colombo following the successful operation of special flights in the second half of April. The air cargo operator of Emirates has said that it will initially operate one cargo flight a week commencing on Monday the 11th of May using a Boeing 777-300 passenger aircraft. It says that the passenger freighter will arrive at Bandar Naik International Airport at 6:55 p.m. every Monday, bringing in essential imports, and each flight can carry up to 50 tons of cargo on its return journey. We will return after this break. Don't go away. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.